Hey guys, by now we're no stranger to sneaky rule changes that could have bigger impacts than most people think. And that's what we're going to be talking about again today, unfortunately. There is another rule that has been proposed by the USDA that could impact where you're able to spend your SNAP EBT dollars. So, it's a little bit complicated. Some of this video will be getting a little bit technical, but hopefully you've seen enough of my videos by now to know that if we're getting technical about something, it's because it really matters and it can have a big impact on you. So ultimately, this new rule that they're discussing could make it harder for some stores, especially smaller retailers like convenience stores or gas stations, to continue accepting SNAP EBT benefits. This means that some places may have to stop accepting EBT if they can't meet the new rules. So basically, these changes are going to raise the bar on what stores have to keep in stock, especially when it comes to dairy options or protein options. And right now, this rule is just a proposal, but it's open for public comment until November 24th, and then we'll see what happens from there. And that's why I want to bring this to your attention, because as of right now, it's been open for comment for a couple of days, and they've only got like 6 comments. And I really feel like this is something a lot more people need to know about because it could have some very big impacts. So let's start by talking about the rule that they're introducing. So on September 25th, they issued this new rule for public comment. And basically, part of it comes from something they tried to do back in 2014, which was increase the amount of food varieties that each SNAP store needs to provide. Right now, there are 4 main food groups: dairy, protein, grains, and fruits and vegetables. And each store has to stock at least 3 varieties in each one of those categories. The new rules are going to increase that to 7 varieties in each of the categories and increase the amount of perishable foods that are required and reclassify a bunch of different foods in different ways. Which ultimately means a lot of retailers are going to have to seriously reevaluate what they are carrying to determine if they can keep accepting your EBT card for purchases. So, like I said, it's going to get a little bit technical today, but hopefully you'll stick with me as we dive into this. So, when that rule was first proposed in 2014, they couldn't implement it right away because a lot of people said, oh no, it's not clear enough. The rules aren't specific. It's too ambiguous. There's all these reasons why we couldn't do it. So it kept getting delayed. They kept kind of chipping away at it until about 2019. And then it looks like they just kind of gave up and it went on hiatus. And now we're circling back to it. The USDA, of course, is saying these changes are necessary to fight fraud and help people eat healthier and stuff. But as we dive into the details, you're going to see how this fits into the rest of the agenda we've been covering. Because it definitely lines up with other changes that are restricting what you can buy with those benefits. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm running some new tech today, and I just got a notification that maybe this isn't working the way it's supposed to. So if you can just drop something in the comments, let me know if you can hear me okay. That would be great. Yeah, so like I said, in 2019, when they were doing this, they got 9,000 comments against it. That's how bad this is. And a lot of people were saying that this is going to really affect people who rely on small stores or rural stores, and that it's going to restrict access to even healthy food options. Because with that increase in variety requirement, only 52% of stores are going to be carrying enough dairy. Only 63% have enough protein right now. And if they don't change that, I mean, you're talking about almost half of stores being affected by this, which could be really not good. Um, Gracious. Trying to follow the comments really quick. Okay, so you guys can hear me. I will stop panicking then and try to carry through this a little bit better. Okay. So this is where we're going to start getting technical. So right now there are 2 things that stores can do to be able to accept EBT. If you've been shopping with EBT for a while, you already know not every store can accept those benefits. So the 2 ways that a store can qualify: first, they have to stock a certain number of eligible foods in each staple food category, or they have to make at least 50% of their gross sales from at least one staple food category. For example, if you go to a butcher, you're mostly buying meat, but the majority of their sales are coming from the purchase of meat, so they still qualify. If you're going to like a farm stand, they're mostly selling fruits and vegetables, but the majority of their sales are coming from those food items. So they still qualify. For everybody else, like, everybody from Walmart to your local gas station, if they're going to take EBT, they have to meet this stocking requirement where they have at least a certain variety of EBT eligible foods in order to be able to accept those benefits. And I know that sounds technical and boring, but incidentally, that's why you can buy like produce growing plants like tomato plants at Walmart, but not at Home Depot, because Home Depot obviously doesn't meet these requirements. So, sorry, it's hard when we get technical. So under the current system, to count that variety, they count it based on the main ingredient. So they'll say if you have a bag of rice, you have rice flour and a frozen rice bowl, all of that counts as rice. When items are unclear, like a soup with rice in it, they'll go by whatever is listed as the first ingredient there, and that's how it's classified, which is how a lot of these smaller stores are meeting those requirements, because they may not sell, a bag of dried rice, but they might sell a soup with rice in it or some other variation. Okay. Under the new system, they are going to make it a lot more complicated. And they straight up say in these changes, this is a direct quote. It says, the purpose is to promote the stocking of basic staple food essentials needed for home preparation of meals, rather than counting such essentials as the same variety as multi-ingredient processed foods. So basically, they're trying to shift SNAP shoppers away from prepared foods like a canned soup with rice in it to more essentials like a bag of dried rice that you would prepare at home. And we've seen that shift in other changes, like the move away from allowing soda and energy drinks and snacks to be purchased with SNAP in a lot of different states. We've covered those waivers in other videos. But there's been a big push this direction for a while, but I thought it was kind of interesting that they just like blatantly said it right in here that that's the purpose of this change. So under the new rules, they want all of the stores to be selling these basic raw ingredients, flour, raw grains, dry beans, those things. Those all count as varieties. But then there's also a second way that they're going to count it, and that's still going to be based on that primary main ingredient rule, but with a couple of clear changes. And this is going to be what hurts a lot of those smaller stores the most. So right now, a store can say that it's carrying 4 varieties of grains if they have bread, bagels, tortillas, and rolls, right? Those are 4 different types of bread. And so that store under the current rules would be okay. That is going to change. They are saying that all types of bread, whether it's a bagel or a tortilla or whatever, is only going to count as bread. It's only going to be one variety. So stores that have been relying on that loophole are going to have a problem. They're going to have to change what they're selling, or they're not going to be able to accept EBT anymore. The USDA openly said in the rule change that they know that this is controversial, but they say that it's necessary to both simplify the process to get approved to accept EBT, but also that they know that some stores are subverting the purpose of SNAP by doing this. So, yeah. So that's one of the big changes, is the way they're handling bread, but that's certainly not the only change. They're also changing how dairy is calculated, because right now under the current rules, if they're selling, like milk from different animals, they can count each one of those as a different variety. They can also count different nut or plant-based milks as different varieties, almond milk, soy milk, whatever. And the new rules say that you can only count 3 plant-based dairy products toward the dairy category. They're also saying that nuts, seeds, beans, peas, and lentils will no longer count as fruits and vegetables, but they will count as protein, which I think they're doing to help the stores, because as we saw in that earlier statistic, a lot of the smaller stores don't have enough protein. And by shifting this, more of their products will count as protein. They also said that foods used in cooking or preparation, such as yeast, starch, broth, chicken, and gelatin, will not count as staple foods. So you can see where this is going to get really confusing, right? For those retailers that are trying to stay compliant with the program, they are definitely shifting and making this a lot different than it used to be. One of the biggest changes that's going to affect your local convenience store or gas station or small dollar store or whatever where you like to shop is going to be the fact that they are excluding all accessory foods. And they are counting accessory foods as things that don't fit neatly in one of those four main categories, such as, yeast, starch, the things we just talked about, but also anything that is considered a snack or dessert food that is meant to complement or supplement a meal. So this is going to be where a lot of stores, I think, are going to get hit. So anything that could be considered a snack bar, even if it's a protein bar, a granola bar, whatever it is, if it's a snack bar, they can't count that toward any of their varieties anymore. They're also saying that jerky can no longer count as a protein, which I thought was really interesting. They're saying other than whole muscle meat jerky, it just doesn't have enough nutritional value, I guess, and it's more often used as a snack. So they're not going to let stores count that as a protein, which could also become a major problem for a lot of stores because under the current rules, if they had turkey jerky and beef jerky and different types of jerky, they could say, oh yeah, we meet that, we're okay, we can accept SNAP. They're not going to be allowing that anymore either. They are also removing cheese and fruit dips and spreads such as cheese sprays, jams, jelly, and so on. They're calling those accessory foods, and those don't count anymore either. Now, the important thing to note here is that you can still buy those things with EBT in most states. I know snack bars are kind of iffy depending on whether or not your state has one of those junk food waivers, but the stores themselves can't use those items to be eligible to sell SNAP. So you're either going to see different foods being sold at your local store, or if this rule goes into effect, they may not be able to accept your SNAP benefits anymore. And the reason, of course, that is such a big deal is because so many people live in what's called a food desert, meaning that they don't have a lot of grocery stores in their area. If you have a Walmart or a Winco or an Aldi's or, a major grocery store that's near your house, they're obviously going to be fine because they sell all sorts of different food products, right? But if you live in the middle of nowhere, and if you hear me chuckling, it's because I've lived in a lot of places that have been pretty far out of town. If you live in a rural area and your local store is a smaller convenience store, dollar store sort of place, they're going to have to adapt, and that's going to be hard on them to meet those requirements. And that's where these kinds of rules start to get really complicated. And that's what concerns me about them, honestly, is I know a lot of people who live in areas where they have one choice for groceries. And if that one store can't take their SNAP benefits anymore, they're going to have an hour commute to get to a grocery store. And that's not sustainable for most people. So that's why I wanted to bring all of this to your attention, because even these subtle rule changes can just have massive impacts on people in ways that I don't think a lot of people expect. Now, there was some interesting things in here as well, aside from all of those technical changes we just discussed. For example, the new rule does clarify that pre-cut fruits and vegetables are considered staple foods and not prepared foods, because that's another one of those really complicated SNAP rules, right? Is you can't buy prepared foods. So, a lot of places had said, oh, well, if we cut our apples into slices, then can we sell that to SNAP shoppers or not? And they are clarifying that, yes, you can buy things like apple slices. If it's pre-cut, it's fine. They also said that stores that have salad bars are okay to accept SNAP as long as the customer is the one that assembles the salad and not the store employee, which is honestly kind of a silly distinction, I think. But if a store employee serves, mixes, or otherwise prepares it, then it counts as a prepared food and you can't buy it with your SNAP money. Just a weird little technicality there. So the good news in this is that they are creating more dairy categories. They're expanding what counts as protein. Some of these changes may be helpful to smaller local stores, but ultimately it is going to require a lot of adapting in order for those stores to be able to continue accepting those benefits if this rule does go into effect. Now, obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I don't work for the government. I am just a person who's been researching this stuff for over a decade. My gut feeling is we're going to see this go into effect just because it's so very in line with all the other changes that we're seeing implemented right now. That being said, nothing is final yet. The last time they tried to do this, they decided not to because they got so much pushback. So if you have strong feelings about this, if you are concerned about your local retailer, you can comment on this until November 24th. And we'll drop the comment link in the description of this video, and we'll pin that in a comment as well. But ultimately, what you need to do to leave a comment is go to regulations.gov and then search one of the two names that you see there on screen to send in your comments, or you can use our direct link. They want detailed comments. So if you are going to leave a comment on this, one of the most impactful things that you could share with them is how far you would have to travel if your local store couldn't take your EBT benefits anymore. Right? Like those examples I was saying of people who live in really rural areas and they're relying on these small stores. If that store suddenly couldn't sell you food with your SNAP benefits, how far would you have to go to find somewhere where you could? Those sorts of comments can have a really big impact. Another thing you can do is talk to your local store. They may not know about this. This was just released on the USDA website, and that's how I found out about it. But you can talk to them, make sure that they're prepared to adapt to those rule changes if they come out. And then you can also give them the chance to comment on that as well. Again, that comment period does run until November 24th. And as of right now, they've only received 6 comments on this. So there's a lot of room for feedback. And now, before I jump into the chat, just a quick shout out to our sponsor, Free Cash. It's a great way to get paid to play games, test new apps, and more. And now I'm going to leave this screen up because I feel like it's got more of the information that you need. And I'm going to try to jump over here in the chat. Okay, so right here, Misfit, I feel like you nailed it. The government is making all things complicated so you quit and give up. And the goal is of making people quit. And I completely agree with that. In fact, when we saw the One Big Beautiful Bill Act get pushed through, a lot of the rules that they had rescinded or delayed were aimed at simplifying a lot of the programs that we talk about on this channel. And they deliberately did not do the things that would make it easier, which to me definitely signals that they want things to be complicated. They want people to give up. And that's incredibly frustrating. Right? That's really, really unfair because the more you need this kind of help, the less able to fight back you are. And that's why we're here at Low Income Relief, because we try to help make that a little bit easier. Let's see. All right, Lisa's saying, is Michigan now included? So the changes we're talking about in this video is a nationwide rule change that has been proposed by USDA. This is not the state-specific waivers. The rules we're talking about today are federal rules that would affect all stores that accept EBT. They're not targeting the shoppers this time. They're targeting the stores that sell food to EBT shoppers. So Michigan would be affected by this as well. Mary Lee says the goal is to get people back to work. And that's true. They have said that that is their goal. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that I know on EBT are disabled. So that's not really a very effective solution for them, I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of you are talking about the changes that have been made recently, and I agree with you. It is a mess. Yeah, Sue says the local stores are Family Dollar and a family-owned store, and I have moved around a lot. Just a fun fact about me, I've been married for 20 years now, and we've moved 19 times. So we've lived in a lot of different places, and it's been pretty common for us to have like a Dollar General and a gas station as our closest grocery stores, and then the next one being a half an hour away or more. So I'm well aware of how big of an issue that can be for people who live in rural areas, because you just don't have that many options. And especially for those smaller family-owned stores, when you start making these rules really, really complicated, they have a hard time keeping up. And it gets confusing. And then maybe they just decide not to bother, or they retire and pass the store on, or, any number of things can happen there, and that gets really complicated. So Southern Belle says, it seems like the food stamp program is reverting back to the way it was before the 90s. Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with how it was before the 90s because that was before my time. I have seen a lot of comments like that. And for those of you who did experience this program before that time, I would be very interested in hearing what your thoughts are on that. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the objective, but I just don't have the data to be able to make that kind of a call. Sue says organic jam and jelly to me goes under fruit. And I thought that was interesting as well, that in this list of what they're calling snack foods, they're including jams and jellies and preserves and things like that, that I wouldn't have considered that a snack food. I have 5 kids, and for many years, their favorite food was peanut butter and jelly, you know? But apparently they're putting that in the list of what isn't going to count now as far as what retailers can count toward their SNAP eligibility, not shoppers. I want to make sure that we're saying that consistently, since I know some of you are joining late. You still can buy those things with EBT, just stores can't use that as a justification to take SNAP benefits, which is a really complicated distinction, I realize. Stormy says, make your own jerky. I have no idea how to do that. I'd be interested to hear if it's actually easy. But I know for a lot of people, we have a lot of people on this channel who are disabled or unable to prepare their own foods at home. And so just because it's easy for one person doesn't always mean it's easy for everyone either. Trying to catch up on the chat here. All right, so Carol is saying, how can EBT promoting healthy foods be bad? I do not understand your reasoning. This is a fair question. I know I've been really critical of a lot of the changes coming to EBT, and some of them are designed to legitimately promote healthy foods, and that's not inherently bad. I am not opposed to people eating healthy. That would be a silly stance to take. What I am opposed to is making life hard for people who are already having a hard time, right? And a lot of these changes just add more hoops and barriers to people who already have a hard time getting help. And I don't know if it's the nature of the work that I do or if it's just the sort of situation I was born into. But I have an awful lot of friends who are significantly disabled in different ways. I fortunately am not. I'm able to work, and that's great. And I appreciate that ability, but I am well aware of what it looks like when someone can't, or when someone can't safely prepare their own food. And those are the people that I worry about when these kinds of changes are rolled out. It's not that I don't want people to eat healthy. It's that I want to make sure that people can eat. And I think that when we make it harder for people to get, especially like ready to eat, I guess ready to eat is the wrong phrase because you can't buy that with SNAP already, but like easy things, right? Like canned soups, things like that are easy to prepare and safe to prepare, even if someone is struggling with different aspects of their health. I think restricting those options can do a lot more harm than good. From a sheerly policy-driven standpoint, I also have concerns about the states that are implementing different waivers and things. I have concerns about how that's being done just because it doesn't seem fiscally beneficial from a budgetary standpoint, because there's so many different things that have to be reclassified and labeled. And there's something, I think it's like 70,000 new grocery products hit the market every month. And all of those are going to have to be classified across all these different state rules and regulations now. And that's adding to bureaucracy, and that's going to add more expense to the federal budget. And that doesn't make sense to me in a lot of ways. So I'm definitely not anti-healthy food. I am just, first of all, concerned about people who can't prepare their own meals from scratch, either because they don't have time or they don't have the ability, and second of all, worried about the rationale for the choices. Like, are we actually going to be saving the government money with those changes, or are we just punishing people for being poor? Because really, when you look at the numbers, it feels like it's just a punishment and not actually designed to help save taxpayers' money. But that is a soapbox I could stay on for a very long time. So I'm going to move on before I lose you all. So Mama says, will we get a list telling us what we can buy? Oh, that is such an interesting question. So Right now, there are 12 different states that have received waivers allowing them to ban different products mostly at the start of 2026, some of them later into 2026. So the list of what you can buy with SNAP is going to be changing depending on where you live. If you guys think a state-specific list would be useful, I would be happy to put that together for you guys. Just let me know what states you're in, and that's something we could potentially do for you. I doubt the government is actually going to put out a list, but that's what low-income relief is here for, is to help fill in those gaps. So, yeah, if you guys want that, just let me know. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to jump back down here to some of the more recent comments because I kind of went up a little ways. So, let's see, where are we at? You guys got chatty while I was looking at the other spot there. So, let's see. All right. So, the prepared food thing is really complicated. I haven't seen any official movement on that. I do know some states are trying to make it so that you can buy things like rotisserie chickens with EBT, but I haven't seen any approvals come in for those yet. So I will keep lookout for that. Let's see. Maeve says some of us can't go back to work, and that's exactly true. Some people just can't. My brother that I lost earlier this year was 16 when he was diagnosed with MS. He never had the chance to work because his condition was just so severe. And some people just have disabilities and work just isn't an option. And that is really, really hard. Let's see. I have no idea why yeast isn't classified as a staple food. They decided basically, I guess, they called it an accessory food, which is kind of an interesting designation, but they basically said anything that's used in cooking or preparation doesn't count as a staple food. So you can still buy yeast with your EBT cards. It's just that the store, they have to sell those 7 varieties of 4 basic staples. So at least 28 products that the USDA goes, yeah, that's worthwhile. And yeast isn't going to count as one of those things. So, yeah. Let's see. L. Jones Franklin says the quickest way to get people back to work is to raise the minimum wage so that people can afford to live. Every year, the National Low Income Housing Coalition puts out their out of reach report and says, how much people would have to make to be able to survive on a single income. And that number is like in the high 30s or $40 an hour now because the cost of living is just so high. Mama says, can we still buy sourdough bread? Yes, you can still buy sourdough bread. That does not change with anything that I have seen, including the state waivers. Sourdough is widely regarded as a healthy option. So, let's see. All right, you guys are all talking about how easy it is to make jerky. I'm going to have to look up some recipes or something and figure that out. Let's see. Becca says it does sound different than how it was before in the 90s. That's good. I'm going to have to look into that. I hadn't considered that. I do know that the program has changed radically over the last several decades, but it would be interesting to put together a comparison on then versus now, I think. Oh, this is a great question, Deborah. She says, does this apply to online delivery from stores like Peapod, Stop and Shop, etc.? So I would imagine so, because even when you're doing online delivery, they have to be able to process those payments through the EBT system. And that is what this rule is affecting. So the USDA is looking at this and saying, okay, and they're changing the criteria for what stores can take EBT benefits. And so if Peapod, for example, no longer sold the right variety of foods to qualify for EBT, they wouldn't be able to accept it even for online delivery. So that would definitely be impacted by these changes. Let's see. Let's see. So as far as what you can and cannot purchase, I know I've said this a couple of times, but we've got people jumping in late, so I want to say it again, hopefully in a more clear way. The changes outlined in this specific video affect retailers and not what you can buy. So unless you're in a state with a waiver that says, effective January 1st, you can't buy soda, chips, whatever, you should still be able to buy the same things unless you're in one of those waiver states. This is just about changing the rules to restrict what stores can take your benefits, which is honestly a really sneaky way to implement some new restrictions, it sounds like. Let's see. Oh my goodness, the debate in the comments today. Yes. So Lauren's asking if you can get everything at major groceries. Yes, major grocers should not be affected by this change. If you do most of your grocery shopping at a grocery store like a Safeway, a Smith's, a Fred Meyer, Walmart, Aldi's, Albertsons, any of those big grocery stores that sells a wide variety of food, you should be fine. Because really, they're saying they need to sell at least 4 variations of, dairy, protein, grains, and then fruits and vegetables. Most grocery stores that are fairly large are going to be able to check that off no problem. The changes that they are proposing here are really mostly going to affect the smaller convenience stores, gas stations, rural grocery stores that maybe have more than enough of one category but not enough of another category. I know a lot of stores that, especially rural stores that accept SNAP, having to stock perishable foods in more categories alone is going to be a pretty big financial burden, right? Because they have to stock it whether or not SNAP shoppers are actually buying it, which could theoretically, I would imagine, lead to price increases and other challenges as well, which is another reason why I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, because I feel like that's important to know and to be prepared for. Let's see. Wow. Okay. I don't know. Oh, okay. I just figured out how to block people from the channel from inside my streaming tool. So that's going to be useful. If you guys notice anybody dropping comments that shouldn't be in here because they're being aggressive or argumentative, just let me know, because I finally figured out how to take care of that. Okay. Yeah, Lisa says, are we going to get a list in the mail detailing things? I don't know. Each state manages their own SNAP program. I can at least put one on the website and keep that updated. But I have no idea what the government's going to do or what they're actually going to send out. Okay, so we're getting requests for Virginia, Illinois, New York. Okay. All right. I will get the team working on those lists because I think that would be really helpful. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. You guys have no idea how helpful it is when you guys hit that like button or subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, when you watch our videos, it makes such a big difference because that helps get the content out to other people who can use this help. And that's so beneficial. So thank you, Sue, for that like button reminder. I really appreciate that. Okay, seeing requests for Florida and California and Arizona and Pennsylvania. This is great. I will make sure that the team goes over and gets all of these going, because that would be very useful. It's hard to do state-specific videos here on the channel because, like I was just saying, about, the likes and watching videos and stuff, when we do state-specific videos, most people don't watch them. That's why we do them on the Fast Facts channel. But we can at least get that information out on the website and maybe the Fast Facts channel as well so that you guys can have access to that. Let's see. Sorry, catching up on the chat again. Sometimes I get caught up in the reading and I forget that you guys are stuck watching me while I say here. Let's see. Yeah, no worries if you dropped your city. As long as it's clear what state it is, we can figure it out. Jeff Winter says, how about buying seeds to grow food? That is one of my favorite things. You absolutely can use your EBT benefits to buy seeds and produce-bearing plants. In fact, one of the states, it was one of the I states, I think it was Iowa, that got their waiver, and they were going to try to ban anything that was taxable under their state rules. And the federal government was like, nope, you still have to let them buy seeds and plants. So I don't think that particular option is going anywhere anytime soon. I think that's going to be protected. So it's a great way to make the most of your benefits. Strongly recommend buying seeds and plants. Just remember, when you go to do that, those retailers have to follow the same rules we talked about in this video. I get feedback all the time from people who are like, well, I went to Lowe's and tried to buy an apple tree and they told me no. And of course they did, because Lowe's isn't a grocery store. They're not set up to accept EBT benefits because they have to either sell the food variety or get the majority of their sales from a food item. And a store like Lowe's or Home Depot is never going to meet those requirements. So if you are going to buy seeds or produce bearing plants with your SNAP benefits, you need to make sure that you're shopping somewhere like a Walmart that has a garden center, but also meets those food variety requirements and probably makes the majority of their sales from food too, I'd imagine. But they at least need to qualify to process SNAP transactions in order for you to be successful in that purchase. So please do keep that in mind. Let's see. Ooh, Marcy is talking about being behind on utilities. That is so rough. I'm glad they're letting you do payment plans. I have heard mixed messages about LIHEAP for this upcoming year. And then, of course, we've got this government shutdown threat over us, too. But definitely, I mean, your utility company is obviously able to do payment plans. They may know of other organizations that can help you. Community action councils also are great resources for getting utility help. And we have other videos and articles on how you can get more assistance with that, but hopefully you're able to get some relief there. Yeah, so seasonings, as far as so first of all, I guess to present this in a more clear way, seasonings you can buy with EBT, no problem. However, a retailer probably would be considered an accessory food for the retailer, and it probably would not help them be approved to accept EBT benefits at their store. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes, and little lady right here did a fantastic job of summarizing my point from earlier. The disabled and the elderly are not able to grow their food. They are not able to cook from scratch. They cannot make beef jerky. These two groups will suffer the most and will get sick from not eating at all. And that is where my concern comes in. I know I get lots of comments and lots of pushback from people who think I'm just anti-healthy food, which is silly. But really, I'm worried about those that just don't eat when eating is hard. So thank you for summarizing that for me. Let's see. Yeah, Sue is saying Dollar Tree doesn't sell fruit and veggies, and that's an excellent point, right? I would imagine, yeah, that's going to be, we may be seeing that change even. I don't know. Jacqueline says, so a diabetic cannot get a candy bar to increase insulin at the gas station. So yeah, in some states, there's going to be those 12 states that are getting those soda and junk food waivers next year. And in those states, they will not, well, okay, not all the states, because some states are only doing soda. But in the states that are banning candy, then that will be true, yes, that they will not be able to get those candy bars. Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of reports that Amazon is having a hard time with EBT transactions, and that's not related to the rule change that we talked about today, because this new rule change is only like a couple of days old and it's still pending and it's still open for comment, so it's not official yet. But if you're having a hard time with Amazon or Walmart with your EBT transaction, if you want to maybe send us an email at tips@lowincomerelief.com about that, I can reach out to them. And I mean, I can't work on anybody's account specifically, but I can at least email them and be like, hey, this many people are reporting problems. What's going on? And maybe we can get some information for you that way. Let's see. Yeah, so food pantries are always an option. Bess is bringing that up as a resource, and it's always a great resource. We are seeing that a lot of them are having more and more challenges as these different cuts happen to different sections of SNAP, because people are just having a hard time. And the more people that have a hard time, the more strain you have on the food bank networks. So definitely reach out to your local food pantry, but do be aware that some of them are cutting back what they offer just because of their own funding struggles, which is a really scary thing to me. Hopefully they'll be able to shore that up somehow. Let's see. Yeah, Ellen points out that taking the bus to go get groceries isn't really a good option either, because then you're limited. I would imagine you're limited by what you can carry and transport on your own. So even if you do have grocery stores nearby, I mean, that can still be a barrier. So that's definitely a good thing to bring up if you leave a comment on regulations.gov about this bill. Jeff is asking, can you buy live chickens for the eggs? Unfortunately, no. I raise ducks for eggs, so I know that this is like a great option. But the USDA rules say that you cannot buy a live animal other than shellfish. So unfortunately, you're not able to buy chickens for the eggs. And yeah, of course, Misfit, this is a good point too. You know, if it's something you can't buy on Snap, you can still buy it with your own money. A lot of people struggle with that because they don't have a lot of their own money. But yes, that is a very good point. So, yeah. So Sue's saying she didn't know Snap could buy seeds and plants. Yes, as long as it is a plant that produces edible food, right? So you can't go buy like flower seeds with your SNAP benefits, but you can absolutely buy, you know, tomato plants or seeds to grow your own veggies from, or even fruit trees. You can even buy fruit trees with SNAP benefits, which is really, really cool. I think that that is an awesome option. So, okay, Mama is asking, when does this go into effect? And we've talked about so many things today that I'm not 100% sure how to answer this question. As far as what we talked about earlier when we were going through my slides here, that is open for comment until November 24th, and then we'll see what they say in terms of implementation after that date, so we don't really know. As far as the state waivers that we discussed, those all have different dates attached to them. Most of them are January 1st, but we do have an article on the website that breaks those down state by state. Let's see. And yes, Dinosaur People's asking if we have a video about LIHEAP. We do have one that we've done already, and we're going to be doing another one soon as we get more information. Sean is asking about grants for auto repair, and that is a great question. We do have a list of those on our website. If you go to lowincomerelief.com, there should be a search icon in the menu. And if you just search for, is it car repair or auto repair? If you just type in repair, you should probably get the list of different places we know about that can help you with that. So hopefully that'll help you out. And yes, we do have tons of videos about grants. We love our grants that we find. Love to share that information. So let's see, trying to catch up here. Oh yeah, somebody's mentioned farmers markets. Farmers markets are great. They should not be hurt by this rule change because if they make over 50% of their gross sales from the food that they sell, then they don't need to have the variety. So farmers markets and farm stands should be fine. But a lot of them have double up programs that can help you get twice as much food as you pay for. So definitely check out your local farmers markets as well as a great resource for people shopping with SNAP. Patrick says that he heard a rumor that they were getting rid of EBT and going to food boxes. So we have a video on that. It was proposed that they start rolling out what they call the Make America Healthy Again box. And I would recommend that you go find that video on our channel because there's a lot of information on that. I haven't heard anything concrete in terms of when that change would be made or if it's even a serious proposal, but we did find a lot of information about what it would mean if they did do that. So that's a whole different conversation though. And yes, Brenda Lee, herb plants are allowed under the SNAP program. So, yeah. And as far as herb kits, I've bought those on Amazon too. And if you shop on Amazon, they clearly mark what is and isn't SNAP eligible, which makes it really easy. I guess this is a good point for a sponsored plug. If you go to lirlinks.com/Amazon, you can get half off your Amazon Prime subscription if you've got SNAP or Medicaid or any of those public benefits. But as far as buying plants, I had mixed results ordering from Amazon. Some of them were in really good condition, others were not in good condition at all. But it was nice to have them all clearly marked as opposed to going to a store, picking something up that you know should be EBT eligible and then having to argue with a cashier because they don't believe you, which is something that we've had a lot of people say happens. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on your chats. Sharon is asking about the work requirements. They apply to ages 18 to 64. Once you hit your 65th birthday, you are fine, and you're no longer held to those. So we have another video that talks about those work requirements. I'd recommend that you check that out as well. Some of these topics are just so big, it's hard to answer in a straight Q&A like this. Oh, that's so sad when Dixies are disappearing. I loved those. Oh, thank you so much. Maeve is recommending that you join the channel. We do, so you can subscribe to our channel for free. Absolutely. No problem. We love to give most of our information away for free. We do have channel memberships that are very low cost. They start at $1. And those just help support our team. And in exchange for that, you get different perks. There's little emojis that we give you. Some of them unlock members only videos. And then Stephanie does a fantastic job of making these great printable kits every month for our members as well. So if that's something that you are interested in doing, go ahead, but please don't ever feel any pressure from me because I know you're all like, there's a reason we do what we do. So I am not offended at all if people don't join. Oh, thank you so much for this comment. I love this. I really appreciate this comment. That makes me feel good because that is definitely why we do what we do. We want to make sure that we're helping and uplifting. And honestly, I get it. I have taken many, many rides on the struggle bus. So yeah, I'm never going to look down on anybody from over here. Let's see. Ooh, this is cool. Silk Starlight says she buys fresh time bundles with EBT at the grocery store. So that's awesome. I wonder, because I'm reading this tip about this paper towel if you're leaving it in the bag. I know I was never taught how to like save stuff so that it lasts longer. I wonder if we should do like a video on that. That would be useful to you guys. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. Yeah, so Jacqueline, it depends on where you are because each one of these states that's got these 12 states with these waivers have all done it in drastically different ways. And that's one of the reasons why I'm opposed to the waivers because it's just this patchwork mess of different regulations. So some of them say if the drink is over a certain amount of sugar content, you can't buy it. Some say if it's an energy drink, you can't buy it. Some say if it's a soda, you can't buy it. And there's not a lot of clarity on what that definition means. So we're going to have to see how that goes. Cornbread Man says, are the new SNAP work requirements retroactive or upon next review? So the guidance I read from USDA says that it should be on your next review. They specifically said that the states couldn't count the months that you weren't notified against you. So when these, so basically the way the work requirements work is you can only get SNAP for 3 months unless you meet the work requirements. So once they notify you, you have 3 months to become compliant. So on your next review or whenever you're notified, then your 3 months will begin at the end of that 3 months. If you're not compliant, you're going to be dropped. But they can't just be like, oh, well, it's your review and you haven't been compliant. Sorry, we didn't tell you. You had to be, goodbye. That's not how that's going to work. So hopefully that it makes sense. Yes. So Connie's asking about how reporting expenses affects your SNAP benefits. This is one of the most underutilized tips for EBT, I think, ever. And so I love to talk about this. If you report your expenses accurately, it may increase the amount of SNAP you receive, especially if you are disabled or a senior. I believe their cutoff for senior is 62. I think I'd have to look that up to be sure. We have another video on this. It's called the medical expense deduction. But if you're a disabled or a senior, you can also report your out-of-pocket medical expenses that exceed $35 a month. So if you're spending more than $35 a month on your, Medicare premiums or your health insurance or your travel to and from doctor's appointments or like food for your service animal. There's all sorts of things that get bundled in that. And if you're spending more than $35 a month and you qualify for that deduction and you report it, it can make a huge difference in how much you receive. So we have, I'm trying to remember when we did it. It wasn't too long ago. We did a video on how they calculate food stamps and then another one on the medical expense deduction. If you go watch those, it'll tell you everything you ever wanted to know about how to increase your SNAP by reporting your expenses. Let's see, the one on work requirements, we did a lot of those. I wish Stephanie was on here with me so she could be dropping links. I can pull the links and drop them. If you put your comment in, not in the live chat, but in the comments below the video, if that's available, I can respond with the link when we're off of here. I just don't want to make you guys watch my face while I go search the channel for things. I worry about wasting your time and boring you guys. Somebody's using their special emojis. That's awesome. I love that. Oh, I did not send this message, so someone must be in here helping me. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, Tammy's saying that all these restrictions are going to make thefts go up. I mean, there's going to be all sorts of things that happen, I imagine. Let's see. Oh, this is awesome. Silk planted a half bag of red potatoes and I would love to hear about how that goes. I have always been curious, but I haven't tried it myself. Let's see. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. I really appreciate all of you. Let's see. I did not know that rosemary was actually a pretty plant, but that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Marcy. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Donna. I appreciate you so much. That's awesome. Thank you. Really means a lot to all of us. Okay, yeah, I'll do that video on how to make food last longer. That seems like a great choice. And then Carla's commenting that a lot of fruit juices are loaded with sugar, and that is true. And in the states where they are using sugar content as the determiner of what you can and can't buy, I imagine a lot of fruit juice is going to get swept up in that as well. Yes, Marcy brought up that you can take classes as part of your work requirement. It can be paid work, it can be job training, it can be continuing your education, and even volunteering to meet those work hours. There is a lot more flexibility in there, I think, than a lot of people realize. So definitely, if you're unable to work, but you could maybe attend a certain amount of classes or volunteer somewhere, knowing your options can be very, very helpful. Let's see. This is really interesting, Linda. When you got that letter saying that your SNAP was ending, there should be something in there about appealing or requesting a hearing or something like that. I would strongly recommend that you look into that and see what your options are, because if you were approved and then suddenly rejected, I would imagine there was a glitch somewhere that happened, and appealing can definitely make a big decision, a big difference in that situation. I know it's an absolute headache, and it's going to take time and it's going to be more hoops you have to jump through, but it's definitely worth trying. So I would pull out that letter, look and see what you can do to appeal that. Bess is saying the medical deduction for SNAP does work, and I'm so glad to hear that. It definitely works. It's been massively helpful for a lot of people, so definitely look into that. Ooh, yeah, I am not going to click on this comment to highlight it, but it is definitely illegal to purchase food stamps. Don't sell or buy food stamps. There are huge legal consequences that can come with that. We have another video that talks about it, but you can actually, there are certain mistakes that if you make them, you can get a permanent lifetime ban from the SNAP program. You don't want to mess with those things. So do be aware of that, because that is we don't want to mess with those. Let's see. Yeah, so here's another big concern that Amanda brings up. Cutting back food stamps has a huge impact on local economies. There was a really interesting report done. I don't remember how many years ago. I think it was about a town called Woonsocket. I think it was Woonsocket, Rhode Island. But there was this town where the entire economy of the town was built around the EBT cycle. And all the stores would stock up and they would all get depleted that week. And then nobody would really buy groceries and the stores wouldn't really sell anything until the next round of EBT came in. And that was a really profound write-up on just how meaningful those EBT dollars are. So when they make these cuts, it doesn't just affect the people who are getting the benefits, it also affects the local stores, and it has big ramifications. So let's see. Oh, okay. I must have misunderstood the thing about buying food stamps. I'm going to have to look into that in greater detail because I'm seeing some follow-up comments that are adding context I didn't have before. So my apologies if I misunderstood the question. Linda's saying, could you do online classes? I think for the work requirement, you have to be, was it enrolled half-time, I think, at a like post-secondary education, like in a college, but I would assume that online would count for that. I haven't asked, but I can definitely follow up and try to get more information on that. Yeah, so people who are asking questions about medical deductions for SNAP, we have another video on that, and I will find a way to grab that link for you because that would be, yeah, really helpful if you haven't looked into that. Okay, so I'm loving this information right here about flyers and Sunday paper. I have never been a big couponer. The most couponing I've ever done is through like Ibotta, just because I have a hard time organizing the information in a way that's effective for the amount of time that I have. But if anyone is willing to share information on how you do your couponing and send that to tips@lowincomerelief.com, that would be amazing because I would love to share more helpful information about that. I just don't have a lot of firsthand experience with it because it's not a skill that I have ever really developed on my own. Let's see. Okay, Lisa is asking, do you have to do a recertification every 6 months if you receive Social Security benefits? So fun fact, a lot of states have what's called ESAP, ESAP, Elderly Simplified Application Project. And that is a special application that you do. If you are disabled or elderly, you're on a fixed income, your income isn't really changing. And if you do an ESAP application, sometimes you only have to recertify once every like 3 years. I think it extends your recertification period to somewhere between 24 months and 36 months, depending on what state you're in. And that can be huge because I know a lot of people get tripped up by that recertification. They miss some paperwork, they lose their benefits. It's a whole headache. So doing ESAP, if you're eligible for it, can be a huge benefit to your household. It can help those benefits continue uninterrupted for a lot longer. It also helps your local SNAP office, right? Because they're constantly churning through those recertifications. And if you don't have to recertify, then that's less of a paperwork burden on them as well. So I think everybody wins in those situations. Oh yeah. Thank you, Rebecca, for clarifying the SNAP benefits. I appreciate that. The bit about buying it because I definitely misunderstood what was being asked. Let's see. So the rules have recently changed. If you have a child in the home, that child now has to be under the age of 14. And I believe the cutoff age is now 65 under the new rules, but we have another video that goes into all those details. I know it's really hard to keep track because all of these things are continuously changing, right? I have been running low income relief for like 12 years now, and I have never seen a year like this where it is just one update after the other with these huge monumental changes so continuously. And so I apologize if it's hard for you guys to keep up. I'm doing my best to keep up so that you guys can keep up. But I also know that YouTube doesn't show you all my videos either, right? Because the way that the algorithm works is just really complicated. So if you are having a hard time keeping up and you feel like you're missing our videos, we are doing those 6 days a week now. And we always send out links to our email list. So if you go to lirlinks.com/free help, you can sign up for our email list. It's totally free, but that way you know you're not missing anything. And we can try to help keep you up on those changes because I know it's a lot to track. So Little Lady is saying, how do you find out which markets do double points? That is a great question, and I'm laughing because it's such a headache to do. There are the biggest program nationwide that offers the Double Up program is Double Up Food Bucks. And you can go to their website and sort by your state and look and see what markets they have. But there are so many other programs that are doing functionally the same thing under different names, like Market Match or Farm Fresh or Dubucks in Hawaii. Like each state kind of has its own local programs that are basically doing the same thing. So what our team did is we went in and we tried to find every single program and make a list of every single market that was doing it. And it's a huge undertaking. But you can find that list on our website at lowincomerelief.com/double up if you're curious, or if you're just, want to go to Double Up Food Bucks and look and see which ones of their markets are available near you. That's an option too. Just know that there are other programs as well that are harder to find that also do the same thing. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Violetta. I really appreciate that. Sharing our videos is so good for our channel. Helps keep us growing, helps keep our team supported so that we can keep making these videos. I so very much appreciate that. It is an honor to be able to do this for my job. Like, I love being able to just research and find things and help people. And I really appreciate when you guys share things, like things, watch things, and make it possible for us to keep doing this. I think that's fantastic. Helps us help more people too, which is always great. Let's see. Trying to catch up again. Oh, yeah. So we are once again under the shadow of an imminent government shutdown. And I know you guys are as exhausted with this as I am because it just keeps happening, right? It feels like every couple of months we're back in this same situation and it's so stressful. So we did a video, I think last week, on how the government shutdown would affect different programs. But ultimately, if you're getting Social Security or VA benefits, you should be fine. Those are not usually, they're not supposed to be affected by a shutdown. Food stamps can be affected by a shutdown in some cases. Medicaid, it sounds like, can be affected if a shutdown continues more than 3 months. There are all sorts of different rules for each different program, and we went over all of those in the shutdown video last week. If the government does shut down, my intention is to do a live stream on the 1st to discuss what's going on and the state of things, because we should have more information at that point. One of the focuses that has been really difficult, one of the things I've seen in the news and that I encountered in my own research, is a lot of the organizations and agencies of the government have removed their contingency plans from their websites, which usually they have a contingency plan published, which is like, if the government shuts down, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. Those are disappearing. So it's harder to predict how different things will be handled. But I did my best to find that information and to piece it together based on past statements. And we have another video on that. And again, I'll be back here if it does shut down. The very next day, we'll be going live and talking about it. So make sure you're subscribed, and hopefully it doesn't come to that though, right? Hopefully. Okay. Let's see. So it is true that if you get Social Security, it does count as income toward the SNAP program. There was a proposal before Congress at some point to make that not the case, which would have been great, but it never went anywhere. If you are on Social Security and you receive Medicare, your Medicare premiums, things like that, can count as medical expenses for the medical expense deduction for SNAP. Also, if you get Medicaid, then that means you might be dual eligible for Medicaid and Medicare, in which case you can usually get help with your medical costs as well. There's other benefits tied to that. But yeah, it definitely sucks that Social Security can impact your SNAP amounts. Let's see. Sometimes I read certain comments and I'm like, why are you watching my video? Like, you're not anyway, it's a whole thing. I don't know. We get a lot of trolls in our comments, guys. We do our best to keep them out of here, but let's see. So hopefully Dollar General will make adjustments to be okay with these new rules. I live in a town that also relies on a Dollar General. And I know that they probably wouldn't make the cut based on the changes that I saw today. I would imagine since they're a big enough chain that they will somehow adapt so that people can still shop there. Otherwise, they would lose access to all those SNAP dollars. So I'm optimistic that something will happen there. I love this because our chat is still like going and you guys are all still here with me and I want to keep talking to you. I do have somewhere I have to be in about 10 minutes. So my time is limited, but I am going to try to catch up and make sure I don't miss anybody here in the comments. So thank you, dinosaur people. I'm glad to know that we've been able to help you. That's been awesome. You guys are wonderful. Ooh, yeah, I like this. So in Maine, the Harvest Bucks program allows customers to earn bonus points when they spend on local food. That's one of the coolest things about a lot of those double up programs and things like that is they reward you from shopping at local farmers and buying local produce. And so it helps everybody. And I think that that's great. Oh, thank you, Mama. Oh, you guys are so nice. I just adore you guys. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. So let's see. Oh, you guys are wonderful. Yeah, I am also praying that the government figures this out and keeps the government running. I remember what it was like when the government shut down in, I think it was 2018, 2019, and the way that they had to make really creative moves to keep SNAP benefits going out. And I don't know if this administration would jump through the same hoops. So I don't know. I'm hoping that things just work out, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. Yes, so I will look into this, Rebecca, because that is a great question. If you guys ever have a question you want us to look into or a tip that you think we should investigate, you can always email tips@lowincomerelief.com. That goes straight to my assistant, Stephanie. And she has a list she maintains for us, and we do our best to make sure we're getting your questions answered. So just so that you know, it's just tips@lowincomerelief.com, spelled just like our website is. No spaces or anything, obviously, because it's an email address. But yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to mispronounce your name, but this is a great point. If you get Social Security, you'll get less in SNAP than if you got the same amount and you were working. And that's because of the earned income deduction and other adjustments that they make to reward earned work. It isn't fair because if you're getting Social Security, it's because you can't work. And it really wish that bill that had been introduced to help adjust the way SNAP is calculated in SNAP, or the way Social Security is calculated in SNAP, had gone through, but it just didn't budge. I'm hoping they'll reintroduce it and try it again, but yeah, never know with the way things are going. So let's see. Yeah, so food giveaways, checking the dates is great advice. I feel like maybe we should do another video on how to compare dates too. I hear this from my kids all the time when they go through our cupboards and they're like, "Oh, this is bad," but it's like a Best Buy date. America is really creative with how they label food, and a lot of times, like Best Buy dates can be really misleading. There's a whole lot of data on that, but you do need to be careful and make sure you're evaluating it as you go. Let's see. I pray for the trolls. Yeah, you and me both. Um, yeah, we get so many of them. Let's see. Ooh, this is cool. So Violetta says in New York, if you're 25 to 55 years old, you can sign up for free community college through the SUNY Reconnect program. And that would satisfy those work requirements for SNAP. So that is a great option. I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. Let's see. Yeah. See, oh, you really? Sorry, I guess I have to highlight it now that I responded to it. Apparently, my husband's in the comments too. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry, trying to catch up with questions and comments. You guys are doing such a good job of staying chatty on here. I hate that I'm going to have to leave before we're done. So Kenneth is asking how this is going to affect him. So what we talked about today originally in the slide deck that we reviewed shouldn't affect you too much. That's mostly going to affect your local stores that stock SNAP benefits. And hopefully you have different grocery options available to you so that you won't be hurt by this. Because the rules that we talked about originally in these slides aren't going to change what you can buy. They're just going to change where you can buy. Yeah, hopefully that clears that up. I mean, we did see that quote that they are trying to push people toward more of the like make it from scratch type foods, but so far that hasn't been fully implemented yet. So hopefully that's at least comforting. I know that this is really stressful and they keep rolling out different things that make it complicated. Oh, thank you, Pink Owl. I appreciate you. Let's see. So there is a lot of talk about to answer Rebecca's question here. There's a lot of different talk about what's going on with Section 8. They are trying to implement a 2-year time limit for most households, but they did say it would not apply if you are disabled. So if you are disabled, you should be fine. Yeah, should be fine. Hopefully. Okay. Oh, somebody asked me what my favorite color is. That's an awesome question. I love purple. Purple is my favorite. Did we actually, oh my goodness, did we actually reach the bottom of the chat? I am so impressed because it was popping up so fast, you guys. Ooh, Sue, this is a great comment. Crock-pot and slow cooker can help too. I love cooking with a crock-pot. I think that's awesome. Yes, Walmart should still be fine. So Shadow is asking if Walmart's going to be fine. Walmart sells so many different products. I can't imagine that they would get hurt by rules requiring more variety because they just have so much already. So that should be okay. And they do offer delivery. In fact, I've been meaning to update our veterinary care posts and videos as well, because Walmart, if you have Walmart Plus, they now offer like free pet telehealth, I guess, with your Walmart Plus. And if you go to lirlinks.com/Walmart, you can sign up for that. You get a 50% discount with your SNAP or Medicaid benefits as well. But that's just a whole side thing because, just too much stuff in my brain, I guess. Oh, so many of you like purple. I love that. Okay. Well, I really, really wish that I could just stay here and chat with you guys because I can see there's still a ton of you here and we're still talking. But unfortunately, I do got to get somewhere to be with my kids. So Miss Mary is just one last question here. Miss Mary is saying, if you're under 65 and retired, do you still have to work? It looks like it. It's not super clear. I will be continuing to look into that, but they did basically say if you're under 65, you have to meet some sort of requirement. Now, one of those requirements, if I remember right, and don't hold me to this because I'm just pulling it out of the back of my brain, if you make the equivalent amount of hours worth, like if you multiply, is it 20 hours a week? And if you're making the equivalent of that income, then they don't hold you to it. So if you're getting some sort of retirement benefits that's over what they would consider your minimum required income, then you might be okay. That was one of the ways that you could get out of those requirements. So that does seem like that would be a thing. I apologize for the lack of confidence in that answer. I do try to be more confident when I answer your guys' questions. Okay, so unfortunately I do have to run today, but thank you so much for being with me today. I think this is probably one of the longest videos we have ever done. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate you.